you're all over the place. And the one thing, when they released that 22 people were released that one day and your name was on that list, I was shocked because I was just like, wow, I thought this was going to be a guy, like you said, like an Undertaker or like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, just there for the duration of your career. So I was kind of shocked.
Yeah. So, and several years ago, Vince was like, you know, when it's time to hang it up, I appreciate you when you come in here, because I usually when it was like a group of people, or you know, I had so much seniority that I could just go, hey boss, we're gonna switch this other thing. You know, I had like a better chance of getting something switched, so I would always be sent to talk to him about whatever we were doing that week or whatever. Excuse me. And then we got to a point where he said, yeah, you know, when the time is right, you know, we'll transition you in a couple years down the road. You know, you'll be like a player coach, like a Pete Rose, and you'll be behind the scenes and in the meetings with us. And then still wrestling, and then eventually transition just full time. You're here forever. I went, oh, okay, that's a way to go.
Salute, Figure Fours. Today, Triple H has called out Dolph Ziggler for saying that authority figures told him they were intentionally making him lose. Dolph has recently spoken out on the Eyes Up Here podcast about his experience in WWE, and he has revealed that a higher-up authority figure was mean to him and also controlling. He went on to say that this figure made him lose every week deliberately to make fun of him and laughed at him and to harm his career. He elaborated by saying they took pleasure and had fun in knowing they were harming both his career and earnings. In his podcast interview, he said, I got to a point where the top of the top, other than Vince McMahon, pulled me aside and said, Pat Patterson pushes for you so much because he says great things and sees such great things in you. And we are actively ribbing him by having you lose every week, he laughed. When he said it, I go, that's funny, but that's my career, where I already lose 80% of the time. Now I'm losing 95% of the time. Come on. People felt really bad for Dolph when he revealed this, and people have really felt for him that he had to go through this. Unfortunately for Dolph Ziggler, Triple H does not feel the same way about him, and he doesn't have sympathy for him. In fact, he went on to call him out in an Instagram comment underneath a clip of Dolph saying what he said in Triple H's comment. He said, names, or don't speak up. Anyone can say this for views. It doesn't make it true. People have both praised and dissed Triple H for saying this one. One fan said, Triple H is going in. I get why he's calling Dolph out though. If you're going to make serious accusations like that, you need to name names. Otherwise, it just sounds like gossip and complaining. Another fan said, I feel for Dolph. It takes guts to speak out against the higher-ups. Even if he's not naming names, it sounds like he went through a rough time. It seems so many wrestlers are frustrated behind the scenes. Hopefully, this leads to some positive changes. And finally, one more fan said, Triple H is right. Anyone can say whatever they want on a podcast, but without proof, it's just hearsay. If Dolph wants to be taken seriously, he needs to back up his claims with evidence or name the person responsible.
And then a couple more years, he was like, you know, you'll be here and you'll do this. I go, so I just assumed this is my life, and eventually I'll slowly go behind the scenes and help out. Like, this is great. And then I got to a point where I really told myself, I go, I only have a certain window. No matter how I am with injuries, you have a certain window to where you can still be a top, somewhat of a game changer at a different company, at a different show, at an independent, where you can have these matches that you wanted to have for the last 15 years that either Undertaker and Triple H went 19 minutes over at WrestleMania, so you have 30 seconds for your tag match, or like things like that, to where you're like, well, now I get a chance to do it where I'm calling the shots, or if someone goes over by 20 minutes, I can still do my match. or I still have this thing, or I saw this guy in Japan 10 years ago. I wanted to wrestle him. I never thought it could happen. Now it's going to. Like it happened with Tanahashi. Like I never thought in the world that would ever happen. But so I said, I only have a few years where I have this window to be healthy and where it matters extra to like be in the ring with someone and have like a special match or a special just like career after WWE. So I said, I'm out of here unless you guys got a bunch of money. And
Sure.
they gave me a bunch of money. And I said, okay, when I go there's no way they're going to let this entire contract go through because they shouldn't. I am sitting at home. Like, this is stupid. So halfway through, a year in, I go, this is great. So I'm going to start planning on getting out of here and going somewhere else. So a year in, I'm checking, I'm watching Japanese wrestling. I'm watching TNA. I'm watching AEW. I'm watching everything. And I get to a point where I go, hey, now I'm not even coming in, like getting an entrance. I'm not even tagging with Bob Roode. I'm not even like making something. It's not even fun when someone pins me. I go, Vince, thanks for everything. A 20-page email. This is the greatest job in the world. And then I aired out some dirty laundry about how I was mad, and just in the last couple paragraphs, but the rest was very, very positive. And I said, please, you have me in a position of what a local can do. Pay him and don't pay me millions of dollars to do it. Let me go. Please let me go do this while I still can. And he responded and said, wow, give me a week to think about this. I go, Vince, I'll fly into Stanford tomorrow if you want me to. He goes, okay, just let me think about this and we'll figure something out. I appreciate you laying this on me. Great. And then 2 weeks later, I was on the release list. So
That's terrific, though, that it worked out the way it did.
Yeah.
Because they could have been bitter and been like, no, we're not going to let you go.
Right. And and I was like, okay, but I feel, had they not been bought out, I would have been stuck there.
Okay.
But they were like, let's trim some fat. Millions of dollars sitting at home on the bench.
Yeah,
Okay,
good timing.
And he just asked to leave for the 5th time. Okay, we're gonna let him go, right? Okay.
Time.
So it was like, yeah, there's some stuff in the past to where it was like handshake deal that the boss kind of backed out of. So
Okay, I get you.
I was happy to get this one that was somewhat of a handshake deal to let me out of a contract a year early. So
That's tremendous that it worked out the way it did.
Yeah.
Well, here's my theory on you. Now, again, I didn't know you when you worked there. I'm getting to know you now. Watching you as a fan and seeing the way you perform and the people you perform with and, you know, who you're putting over week after week. You're there for 19 years, but as I'm watching you, I'm saying to myself, they're not using him correctly. There's so much more because I see a star compared to other people. I'm not going to name others. I'm not, you know,
Yeah.
I see a star. And the way that sometimes, yeah, they put a belt on you here and there, but the way that they used you, in my opinion, I feel like there was so much more they always could have done. But you lasted 19 years. Do you feel like there was some heat that you didn't know about, that they had their thumb on you? There might have been somebody politicking against you. Like, were you aware of anything going on?
Yeah, of course. And it's a couple of things that I said earlier. One, it's like either nobody's rooting for you in the meeting because you're not 6'5" or 300 pounds, or you're not Vince or Hunter's favorite guy, so no one's going to be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, boss. I like him too. There's not one of those things. And then there's also the other extreme to where Pat Patterson was a big fan of mine, and he was more of a consultant. So some months he's there every TV. Sometimes he's talking to Vince all the time, and then some months he's just gone for a few because he was a little bit older and he's enjoying his life. He's on vacation and stuff, but also he come help out. So sometimes there's nobody there, and if nobody's got your back, it's kind of tricky already. I'm not a legacy. I don't have any inside information, or like nobody's looking out for you. But also I got to a point where the top of the top, other than Vince, pulled me aside and said, Pat pushes for you so much because he says such great things and sees such great things in you that we're now actively ribbing him by having you lose every week. And I go,
that's terrible.
That's a funny, and he laughed when he said it. I go, that's funny, but like, that's my career. That's already, I lose 80% of the time, not losing 95% of the time. Like, come on, like that's not, and they thought it was like a cool thing to tell me. So again, this is anecdotal, secondhand information. It's not something I witnessed personally, but people in the meetings would tell you like, oh yeah, anytime this thing was set up, these two guys would go like, no, we don't like him. And they go, okay, on to the next guy. And it just, I mean, it's showbiz. That's how it works. But it's, that's, of course, part of the deal. And there's a million amazing moments that I got to be a part of,
Right.
or that were based around me, that the memories will never, ever go away. And the fans have them too. It's just that I think that there's that extra part of there's no follow-up because there's no one in a meeting going, okay, now we're going with this guy, right? And they're like, nah, we're good. And so the next day, so it's weird to complain. You're like, hey, you won like 20 titles and you were the world champion. It's like, yes, that's fantastic. And I cherish that. But also the next day, every time I won those titles, I lost 92 times in a row, including the day the week I became world heavyweight champion. I lost the next match. Like, so, and that's, again, it's showbiz. That's part of the deal. But also it just goes, okay, if the company's not behind him, eventually the fans will not, because they understand, like, oh, what's the point of this? But they stuck around a lot longer than they should have, I think, because of the work ethic and everything that was put forward by me. I think.
Yeah, when you say longer than they should have, I don't agree with that statement at all. I mean, you have a huge fan base. They admire your work and your work ethic, so they're fans, period. They're not just going to give up on you because you lose. Because the smart ones know it's not you losing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you get to a point where it was, I study the metrics behind the scenes and the ratings and all that stuff and different things. And you go, it's one thing when people my age go, oh, Dolph's going to put out a good match and he's going to lose. And then it got to a point where 10-year-old kids are going, we know you're losing. And then you get to a point where 6 and 8-year-old kids are like, oh, I can't wait to see you. Like, so you get to a point where the fans are still hanging around longer than they should, but the office is telling them, don't waste your time. You're going to see a cool thing, and for a split second, you're going to forget that you know this guy's losing. And that was my goal every time, is to get 1 or 2 split seconds where it goes, oh, because that's what I was up against. And I thought I did that pretty damn well. But every once in a while, it's just there's nothing, and then somebody's hurt and they go, you're fighting Sheamus in the world title match, and 99% of an entire crowd is cheering for the bad guy as loud as they possibly can for the
Right.
entire match. And I go, damn it, hell yeah, we can still get him.
Because you're that guy that the office counts on to make everyone look good, because they feel you can't have a bad match. But you're not the guy that's going to get the push.
Right, and so that's, you pick one or the other, or I even tried it. Someone high up was like, stop taking this finish so well. Stop bumping. And I go, I tried it once. I tried it at a live event to like not give everything. And the timing was off and it was weird. And I go, no, for a split second, I go, maybe I can. No, I can't. I can only do it as best as I can because I have to sleep at night, even for an hour or two. And so it's either like, I know I'm not going to be the franchise guy, but every couple of months I go, I can get, if I can just get them to think this way, I can get a couple months out of it and make the most of it. So it's also, if you can take that finish, fantastic. You're going to take it every week, but also you're going to take it every week for 20 years and you're going to build a legacy and get paid. And then on the weekends, you can go do 25 minutes with Kofi and tear it down and have the best time of your life.
So they want you to take it, but take it like not to the potential that you can? Is that
just a couple of people were trying to almost like look out for me and saying you take this too well. Like the first time I took Sheamus's finish, they go, holy shit, are you okay? And I go,
it's at work, brother.
Boss, it's my job to make it look like I got killed. And they're like, oh
right.
My God. So if you're working the boss and then the next time he's like, so it's like, oh cool, I'm doing something great. And then it gets into like, ooh, I don't know who's winning the world title tonight, but let's make sure we get that Sheamus kick on Dolph because it's going to look so good. And you're like, so then it got to a point where I think there was a couple of months on SmackDown where I was just fighting Sheamus for no reason because they wanted to see me take his finish. And I get it because there's some pretty great gives out there, GIFs, whatever. I'm like, it looks awesome because I had to do it great. And then, but then also after 30 matches, when you're 1-29, you're like, how do you make this guy the world champ? How do you make him credible? How do we follow him around in a long-term storyline? Right. So it's good with that.
This is crazy, yo. Some good old wrestling beef. Triple H got to stay off the internet, though. Triple H, this clip is 5 months old. The clip you commented on is about 5 months old. Dolph Ben said that. And Y'all guys, let me know in the comment section. Do you believe Dolph? Do you believe Dolph got some truth to what he's saying? He should have said the people's name, but I believe him, and it probably was Johnny Laurinaitis. Guys, let me know in the comment section who you think it was that sabotaged Dolph Ziggler's career. I know it was a collection of them, but
This is a wreck. He's moving like an uncaged animal.
No lie, he's wild in there.